Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is September 15th, Friday when I'm recording this. Hopefully you guys got a nice weekend lined up for yourselves. And as far as the market goes, boy, there's just kind of been just sideways. I mean, really just sideways. We are not seeing a whole lot of participation. The market is very thin, and so it's going to be kind of a short video today. Anyway, maybe that'll be nice for you going into the weekend. We do want to start letting everybody know the Orlando Summit is coming up. This is our simpler trading sponsored one. We're going to have VIP stuff. We have, I think, poker night. We have a happy hour, all that kind of stuff. And this is going to be just before the money show. I'm going to be here at the Orlando Summit. I'm going to be speaking at the money show. So definitely start looking into this if you guys are interested. And if not for the simpler one, we'll see you there for the official money show. All right, and then if you guys are interested in what I have to say and my product, the Moxie indicator, you can come over, check out $7 for 30 days in the Moxie Indicator Mastery, which is basically the trading room. All right, so let me come over here and we take a look at the internals, and it's just not much going on. You know, we've barely got stocks that have kind of picked up here. You know, in the past, it's done a pretty good job of at least picking the lows, which it did. And then the number of stocks for the 20-day SMA, okay, so it's up. It's kind of average. But then as far as stocks over their 50-day and 200-day, well, that's what is really struggling. And that is how the market is having a difficult time trying to get anywhere. It's just nothing is really happening. We've seen things like this, or participation went down and then kind of sideways. And this is just down here, kind of kerplunk, flat, not doing much. The other thing that I'm looking at that's a little bit concerning is if we look here at the new highs, new lows, we're seeing new lows actually start to increase. And if you think about what that means, is that if we have a market that's been going up and going up like this, and it takes a time to consolidate, or maybe it pulls back a little bit, if you look at that as an individual stock, this is not making new lows. And even though it's been pulling back, maybe you can do it for a while and then finally goes up, there were no new lows inside of this range. So what's happening is while the market's going up, there might be some names that are kind of, just barely doing something. And then when the market starts to pull back, like right here, these names then do roll over and they make a new low. That is a problem because it means that there are a lot of names that are still bumping around their lows. And when the market shows any sort of weakness, we're starting to get new lows popping up like that. And that's not a great situation. It was fantastic to see new highs raise, and of course new highs are going to be pretty much, very quiet, really pulling back when the market is also pulling back like this. That makes total sense. But these new lows that are a little bit concerning, and they kind of go along with what we're seeing with the breadth indicators, that just not a lot of names are participating in anything. The market has also been very sideways. If we look, there we go. If we look at this, we do have the Moxie price trigger down, a Moxie indicator down here. We had a Moxie price trigger back here. And for now, I've been saying, hey, I think we're mostly just going to go sideways until we find some support, and then we can move back up. It's a little concerning, though, that we're at, what, 3, maybe 4 weeks in, and we're just not seeing any signs of anything yet. In fact, if we look at the hourly chart, it's just kind of, same thing, not doing much. In fact, we kind of called this pop in through here, and then I said, just wait, don't go chasing this thing. And then sure enough, it dropped down like that. And then even yesterday, I did a look and a scan through my general watch list. And what I saw in through here is even on a yesterday, so Thursday, when the market was up and the internals looked fairly decent too, I sorted my watch list by percent gain. And so I went and I looked around at all the highest moving stocks for the day, and almost none of them were in uptrends. The biggest movers were just kind of bouncing off the lows. There really wasn't anything to actually work with. Nothing really looked great. Yes, of course, there are a handful of names that are kind of moving, but honestly, there's still even more that are just not doing anything. And then, I kind of look at let's do the RSP real quick, because I've been looking at this one. This is the equal weight of the S&P, and you can see it's not, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening in through here. So, I don't want to be shorting anything because the market doesn't quite look like it wants to get short. We do have the put call ratio is fairly high, and we already have, only about 30% of stocks over their 50-day SMA. Of course, things could keep going further, but it's kind of like most everything is already down. Now they're just kind of hanging out, not doing much, and that's what we're seeing. I think with the RSP, I was noticing just like the IWM that we had a double bottom and we had positive divergence. And so I was looking at that as something to say, hey, be careful on the short side. And then sure enough, on Thursday, we got to move to the upside, but then today, Friday, it's right back down. So there's just nothing quite to work with on these kind of things. So that's the RSP. The IWM looks awfully similar to it, practically identical. You can look at the Dow and through here. It doesn't look terrible, but it's also just not doing anything. I'm seeing a lot of names that since we had the pullback in August, September has kind of maybe just been a drift up to the upside, but then the problem is they maybe reach resistance and then they come back down. So we've been seeing that names, for example, like Netflix, and through here they've been having a rough go at it. Now what I do want to show you for Netflix, and I'll show you Amazon too, is if we look at the higher time frame charts, Netflix basically ran into its weekly 200. You can see it's also running into its weekly third ATR, and I think it just got too overbought, too extended, ran into resistance, and you can see it started to come back down, and now it's breaking the weekly 21. Now we take that idea, and maybe let me see, take a look here. Oh yeah, so look at Netflix. See the inverse trampoline move? Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And you can see the Moxie indicator right on cue for the downside with Netflix. Now, take a look at Amazon. And while Amazon seems to be strong and it's kind of moving up, I am seeing some concerns, nothing official yet, but you notice how price has been trying to move up. Notice that the Moxie indicator has been down like that. Yeah, it might be a problem someday. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see if it's going to do something. And then if you look at Amazon on the monthly and weekly, you can see this is the other reason why I'm looking at this and just saying, hey, big picture, maybe a little bit careful on the long side. It's also very similar to Netflix to where it's up here outside of the weekly 200 and it was up along the third ATR. And then there's just a huge gap here between price and the monthly 10, which at some point, price doesn't like to be too far away from that moving average. You can see it even on the downside. There's some pretty big gaps between price and the monthly 10, and what it do is snap back. Okay, so we just need to be aware that this could be an issue in through here. Same thing here with price in the weekly 50. Not saying it has to go to the weekly 50, but a lot of times when you get too far away from moving averages, they do like to come back for a bit and test that for support. Another one that I thought was of interest, I'm sure a lot of people are talking about Tesla. They had good news in China as far as their sales. However, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that there's a really big gap between price and that moving average. You can see there's kind of that same gap here between price and the hourly moving average. So just like you can see here, gap and gap, oftentimes at some point price does tend to come back down. Now, sure, it could do it by going sideways and taking time to fix that and making room, but I would be more inclined to probably say that this is going to move down in order to fix that gap situation. So just something to kind of be aware of about that. And if we look at Tesla on the monthly and weekly, generally speaking, I like what's happening. I like that price got over the monthly 10 and then really it's now flagging like this and it's coming into support, and it came into support here on the weekly chart. We got a fresh Moxie price trigger on the weekly time frame. So, generally speaking, I would be bullish on Tesla, but not right this moment because of this gap here. If I wanted to go long in this, I'm going to wait till that gets resolved because, well, I just think that it's going to happen. And, based on the things that I've seen a lot in the past, I think the likelihood is higher than not. All right. Then there are some other names. ROIV is one I was kind of discussing. I think this also is emblematic of what's going on with the market right now, that you can see here that there was a level that price was underneath, and then here's the Moxie price trigger, then it just bounced right off that moving average, and then boom, there we go. And it did even on volume right in through there. And I didn't do anything about this name. I didn't trade it or anything else like that. But I think it's an indication of what's going on with this market. It's just a good sign. You can see it tried to move up, break out on volume. Boom. Totally turned around the other direction and failed and didn't work at all. So I'm just saying I think we need to really be careful with this market. It doesn't seem to have a strong appetite to the long side. There are some other names that we were looking at. Nail, this is the Homebuilders ETF, the leveraged one. And some of the things that I was noticing in through here is it is now looking like it's getting stuck underneath the daily 50. And you can see that it basically got under that top area as resistance and just could not get past that resistance. The other thing we could be looking at is this could actually be a head and shoulders. And you can see basically got rejected at the right shoulder. And then here you can see the Moxie price trigger fired to the downside, and price got rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. So yeah, this doesn't look good. But maybe for some of you, that's no surprise. It's nailed the home builders, interest rates, supply and demand. We know that housing prices, just that is likely to happen and shouldn't probably be too much of a surprise. Other than that, as I said, there are a handful of stocks that are going up. But the majority, looking at these sectors, even the semis, just not getting it done. Look how far below zero the Moxie indicator is below zero. Is below zero, and then you can see here we got the Moxie price trigger to the downside, and price perfectly got rejected by the downside hourly 50. So this is not doing well, and you can see it's basically there breaking some new lows. So semis not looking good, AMD not looking good, Nvidia, same thing, kind of topping out. You can in fact see that we had price up over the daily 50, the Moxie indicator below zero. That's an inverse trampoline move. And even though it tried to spurt up like this, that's where it broke and came right back down. So, I'm optimistic that maybe this is just kind of the September lows and September doldrums and all that. But there's nothing really for me to do if I'm going to be directional to the long side. And I'm not entirely sure I want to be doing stuff to the short side because some of those things are pretty choppy and not quite working very well either. And so I just want to maybe lay low for a while and see when the market's going to start picking back up again. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. We'll see. But right now, there are no real clues of what's going on for the upside. And we're just going to have to keep waiting, being patient. And then we do have FOMC next week on Wednesday. So we'll see where that goes. All right, guys. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Take care.